This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so last week, like I said, we went over, I think that was, what did I just say, chapter 11? And we went over managing SELinux ports. Like, so for example, when I talk about that, I'm talking about, let me see, I can't do history on here because I don't have one. I'm talking about, so HTTPD runs on port, or HTTP, and if you spin up Apache, by default it runs on port 80. If you drop a SSL certificate inside of that, it works on port 80, not 8080, but port 443. So that's your SSL certificate, right? So by default, there are some ports. Let me go here so you can see what I'm talking about. There are ports that automatically that it recognizes. So let's go here. I'm not gonna listen to that, but here, if we type in cmanage port dash L, you'll see different ports being managed. If we just grab for HTTP, you can see now I have on a cache port, and remember, HTTP cache port underscore T, the T stands for type, right? HTTP underscore port underscore HTTP underscore port underscore T, that stands for type as well too, and you can see port 80 and 443. So if you had something set to port 44, if you wanted something set to HTTP port type, these are the ports that it knows that it operates under. Like, these are okay, right? So if you have a new port, you're gonna have to add this port to this particular type. And so in here they talk about managing ports right here. So here, adding the port, right? And the port label, and then the type, which is of TCP. And you can see here where it's divided up between TCP and UDP, right? And then you add in the type of port. So the protocol would be TCP-P would stand for protocol, and whether it's TCP or UDP, and then port. And they tell you right here, add the new port label. The T stands for the type, and then the P denotes the protocol. And they walk you through that. And then once you implement a change, it will show you a change. But it's only after you implement a change. We saw last week, if we just run this command by itself, or we can double verify that as well. C manage port dash L dash C. I don't have anything because I haven't changed anything. But if I would have ran the command above it, this go for port T, if I run that command, it'll show me my changes. All right. Here, always look at the notes that they have. Server specific SELinux man pages are found in the SELinux policy doc. Why is this important? On the exam or in life when you're working, you always want to use the man pages and the docs because they give you a little bit more insight into what else you could do with SELinux or any command for that nature, right? So the next one up is you added the port. Now you need to remove the port. Here we're gonna use the dash M, and they tell you here you want to modify it, right? You create it, but now you want to modify the port. And so they walk you through, like, how do you modify? And the one thing about Linux is it's really, to me, just my own thought process. It's really self-explanatory, right? P stand for protocol, and M would stand for modified, right? C would stand for change, but notice it's a big C and not a little c, which tells me there's probably a little c somewhere in there. And so that's what we went over last week. And I left the guided exercises for you all to do, to walk through yourselves, and go from there. But this week, we're gonna kind of go reinforce some stuff we learned last week, not necessarily with ports, but just with SELinux itself. And then we're gonna go through, and this is from Thursday's live that I'm referring to, and then we're gonna go through controlling SELinux, right? Just in general. I'm not going to do anything that says guided exercise. I'm not going to do those. I'm going to leave those to you. I just want to explain the this not necessarily the stuff behind it, but make sure you understand what they're talking about. So those that are new, why is SELinux important? Where does it come from? And this is for anybody. SELinux is from the NSA. When I say the NSA, I mean the NSA, right? Let's see, will it give me a tab in this view? Yes. Okay, so hopefully I can get back to where I was at. Probably not. Let's say NSA SELinux. All right, so NSA, like those people up there in the place to be. This is SELinux for them. Anyway, they just give you a little bit background about it. And we kind of went into it last week, but we're gonna reinforce it. Let me look down here and see if they have it. So, let me see. There's different classification levels when we're talking about SELinux. So let me go over here and show you what I'm talking about. So if we do a vim on etc SELinux config, and we see here by default this machine spun up and SELinux is in enforcing mode. I know that because I'm reading here and it's SELinux and the machine was just brought up, and it also has a targeted type of, it has a SELinux type of targeted, but it could also have a minimum, and it also could have an MLS. The MLS one is the one that's really, that NSA really uses for security level. And I was looking to see if they're gonna touch on it in here, because there's different security levels from unsensitive to sensitive. So the clearance levels, let me see if they have it in here. They probably don't, but that's okay because it's in the book, it's in the chapters. Yeah, they don't have it in here. All right. Now let's work on getting back to, and that's why I don't like this mode, because I can't never seem to find my top. All right. That's the part I don't like. I had to come out, but that's okay for right now. I can bring it up over here, and then I'll drop it over there. Let me drop it in over there. All right, 5. Okay, so let's go through this. All right, so we talked about the config file, where you can find out what when you boot up what SELinux is in, if it's in enforcing, permissive, or disabled, and we see it's in enforcing. Another way we could tell that is if we come over here and we say git enforce. Say we don't want to open up a file, we could just do git enforce. Let me clear my screen so you can see that. We could say it's in enforcing mode, right? Another way we could set this, and I think Shashina was saying we could use SE status, and you can use that too, right? Where it tells you that it's in enforcing mode, and more information about the kernel and the root directory where everything is at, and if it's enabled or not, right? So those are two ways to tell. Another way you can say, hey, I want SELinux to be in permissive mode, right? Suppose you did an install on a package and it's not rendering or it's not working. So you could do, say, set enforce to be 0, right? And now when I do git enforce, before it was in enforcing mode, now it's in permissive mode. So you can go from enforcing to permissive. Now, the one thing about this is the way SELinux works, if you want it to be booted up into enforcing or disable mode, and you're switching between modes and you want that to be a reoccurrence, you're going to have to change this SELinux config file in order to and set that to disable in order for that to be a normal occurrence across reboots, right? And what it does, it relabels everything for you. Now, the major differences between enforcing is and permissive is enforcing everything is logged, is locked down. Permissive says I'm not going to lock everything down, but I'm still going to log everything, and then disable it doesn't log anything, right? And another thing you could tell if you go over to cd var log, and I always like to do ls minus ltrh because I want to know what was written last. And I see messages was written last. So I'm going to do a tail dash in the last 5. That's what the dash in lets me do. The last five messages that got pushed out here. I can see my messages, but I can also look at secure. The last 5 messages in secure. And so when I look at the last 5 messages in secure, you can see I'm getting some SELinux information in here, right? It's giving me some SELinux information in here. So let me go and look this up. Hold on. Let's go var log secure, and it's telling me my login in sessions as well too, right? It tells me that you can see it's updating, but it's telling me this PAM system D. It's giving me workstation information, poll kit, stuff like that, right? So it's another way for logging information. Let me go here and look at messages again, right? That's messages. And that's a common question. What's the difference between messages and what's the difference between secure? You'll get that question on an interview. All right. All right. So the next thing we want to look at is we looked at how we could disable it at runtime, and that was with the SELinux set enforce 0 right here. And if I want to go back to it, I just go back to 1, and then if I can do a get enforce, right, I'll see that's it's enforcing, right? All right. So another thing that they talk about here in chapter 5, let me drop it over here. Let me get to it right here. It's basically what SELinux protects, right? So I hate this part. I'll read it to you. SELinux is really a protection of files, basically data. Files, you can look at files as data, right? So if we want to be able to have Apache running and reading from a different port, and let me show you what happens. So if I do a yum install Apache, so it'll make more sense to you. All right, so I'm installing Apache right now. And what it does when I install Apache, it creates a directory in var, I think it's var www.html. So if I cd over to var, I do an ls, I now have a www directory. And then if I do an ls again, I have the HTML directory, right? So now I need to know, and this is how these contexts work. I need to know what type of context or what type is it, right? So if I do an ls minus lz here, you can see, and I'll break this down to you. I'm reading from here, right? And I'll go back over this in the class in the work that they have. I have system U, which is your user. We have object R, which is your role. And remember, anything that's ending in a T, we're gonna roll with, that's a type. And then here, the S0 on the end, that's a classification level. S0 being the least protected. It's the way to look at that, right? It's open, right? And that classification level changes over time. So now let's get into, let me get out of this mode here. And let's close that out. And let's drop this over here. So I don't know where that went. And then I'll pull back up. All right, so In here, we talked about enforcing permissive and disabled. And then they went through and go over some basic concepts. And they give the var ww HTML as the example of what they're talking about. And then temp and var temp, right? But right down here is where they break down that unconfined user, the SELinux user, that role, and everything is separated by a colon, right? And then the type, and then the level of the classification, and what file that we're talking about that this is on. So here you see user role type and sensitivity, right? And remember, I say the sensitivity can have different levels. It's from the NSA. So if we look at I guess not secret, secret, top secret, and full scope is how you can look at this as far as classification levels, right? All right, so here it says the type context for a web server is HTTPD underscore T. The type context for files and directories normally found in this is right here, HTTPD sys content underscore T. So the contents in this folder. So if you drop something in this particular path right here, var www HTML, it needs to be of this context. If it's not of this context, you won't be able to render the contents of that file. And that's what they're showing you here, right? See, there is a no allow rule in this policy for files normally found in /temp and var temp, so access is not permitted. With SELinux enabled, a malicious user who had compromised the web server process could not access the /temp directory. And so they go on to show you here about different contexts like Apache, or in types, I should say, HTTPD underscore type, Maria, MySQL underscore, MySQL D underscore type. Here, anything under /data, MySQL underscore DB type. And then here, HTTPD context type. So if you read from up here, they're showing you, they're giving you an explanation of this one right here. It says the context type for files and directories are normally found under var HTML. They're talking about the contents there for under that HTML directory. The context for files and directories normally found under /temp or var temp is temp underscore T. And then they go through here and just try to show you that MariaDB has this context. By default, files found in the /data MySQL directory have a MySQL DB type. So in other words, if anything under this path right here doesn't have that context, it won't render. Anything that doesn't have this type, it won't be read, and so forth. And that's what they're showing you there, right? And they're showing you how SELinux prevents that access, right? But if you wanted Apache, if you wanted some file that MariaDB had to be read via HTML, you have to set it to this type and not have it as a DB, MySQL DB type. So here they're going to show you processes, right? So let's see if I could bring up a process again. Let me go back here to this lab, grab this lab environment in this console. All right, so all right, let's clear. All right, here they're saying like if you run PS, and this is another way to tell if SELinux is running or not. If you run a PS AXZ. Now, you don't know what those mean, you could type in a man on PS. So you can read the man pages. The man pages are the help pages. The A stands for all, and here they have the X. So see every process on the system using BSD syntax. This is the standard syntax if you pass the dash. And they say if you want to see it in a tree, you can do it this way if you want to see threads. And so they break it down for you. To get security info where you got the Z right here, they're showing you that. So let's get down here and see what the X stands for. We see the A is everything, right? We know it's all. But what is the X for? The X is lift the BSD style and must have a TTY, like a terminal. The options are used when the PS personality setting is set like BSD. So it's just a BSD setting, and then you can drop down to the capital Z, which would be showing you the SELinux information. So I'm jumping down here to show you that. Let me look here. So let me do a capital Z, because I don't want to keep going through this file. There we go. All right. Add a column for security data. So we add in a column for security data, and it says for SELinux, right? So now we do a PSAZ, oh no, AX capital Z, AX capital Z, and let me pipe this over to less. All right. And I'll zoom back out some. Let me run this again. All right. I can't make it smaller where you can get everything. Yeah. But here you can see where the actual labels are showing up here, right? Remember, user, role, type, and then the sensitivity level. And they're showing you that, and you get a chance to see that. Now, if you just do a regular PS minus AX without the Z, you see I don't get the actual security level, or I should say security type, or the sensitivity level. I don't get those things. And so that's what they're showing you here, right? Now, if we go back into the chapter, they're showing you, like, if I start the HTTP process, which is not started on this system, and we can double verify that. Let's clear. Let's do a systemctl status HTTPD, which is the web server for Linux, which is Apache by default. You can see that it's inactive, it's dead. It's nothing going on with it. It's not even started. But now if I do a systemctl enable HTTPD, that means I'm setting it up to be a cross reboot. So when the system boots back up, it'll HTTP will start up. But if I do a start, and then go back and do my status check, you can see now that it's active and it's running, right? But what also we gain, because we started this, we can do a PS minus, well, we could do a PS A X capital Z, and then grep for HTTPD. And now we see that HTTPD has a system U, a system R, a HTTPD type, and then the sensitivity level. And these users, there are different users inside of SELinux. I don't think the book actually, this class actually talks about the SELinux users and roles. Yeah. Let me see. It's Gen 2. Look at TripAdvisor. Here, Fedora may have some more context on the roles. All right. Like I said, I like the Fedora layout of different things. All right, so here is the role. The role is, well, let's look at users. That's what we want. The user identity, SELinux, this allows users to inherit the restrictions placed on SELinux users. And they show you those users here, like unconfined users, system user, and they're different users. And then they break down the types, right? So they break down the role, the type, and then the sensitivity level as well too. So here, I hope you're able to see this. And let me make this a little wider. Here they show you about the S0 through S0 is the same as the low level, and then it goes upwards, right? C0, C3, S0, C0, and that changes, as you can see here, right? some of these level changes. And again, this is, you use this more, the MLS version, you'll use that more if you're on the Fed side, using that in terms of MLS. Then see, I was looking for the different users because there are different users. Like you can see here, unconfined, confined, system user. There's just different users. Let me see if they have a listing of users. Confined and unconfined. Oh, sorry. I thought I turned that down. Oh, no, I didn't. All right, so when we're looking at, let's see, we have unconfined user. So here they're just talking about, in this one, a Linux user being mapped to SELinux unconfined. Now, where's this payoff at? You'll have some companies that use SELinux, and then you'll have some companies that don't use SELinux. All right, here we go. I knew there were users. All right, so you got a guest user, a ex guest user, a user underscore u, and then a staff user, and then we saw the other one, unconfined, confined, and system, right? But there's a couple of more users that you can have set up on for this particular, for SELinux, right? And they don't really talk about this in the class, but you can tell when you're starting looking at this, you have a system user, right? So what's the difference between the system user? And I probably had to do a deeper dive to explain that, because I didn't see this in the class telling you that, right? But in here they show you that we started it, and here they did a PS minus Z, capital Z, and a capital C on HTTPD. And let's go back to our console and let's look up a man on PS. And then let's just type in a capital H. Let me see if it'll pull it out for us. Figured it wouldn't. Here we go. Show the process hierarchy. So let's go and get rid of that, and let's clear my screen, and let's do a PS minus Z, and then capital, oh, was it capital C? Oh, did I do that wrong? Was I supposed to be looking up C or H? I'm supposed to be looking up capital C. You know, nobody say nothing. Man on PS. And let's do a capital C. All right. I was looking up the wrong thing. Nobody said nothing. All right, command list. Select a command by name. This selects the process whose executable name is given in the command list. All right. So let's go back and look at their example. They're looking at HTTPD, right? So now let's go back over here and type in PS minus capital Z, capital C, and HTTPD. And so now that you get a chance to see that filtered out a little better there, right? Let's look at PS again, and this PS minus A. All right. Let's look at I'm trying to see what processes are a good one to look at. Let's see, we got HTTPD running. We see the bash, sudo lib, SSL, and I'm looking over in this column here to see what I see. I'm just looking to see some processes. I probably can get some other processes running, but let's check out bash. Let's see what happens when I do bash. Okay, cool, that works. All right, so now we saw bash at the last one, so we're here. You see it's unconfined, unconfined, and unconfined type, meaning it's anybody really can use this. It's not in a confined space. It's in an unconfined space, meaning it's pretty open. What you don't want to do is, say you created a process or something like that, and it should be only used in a certain type or a certain space. You don't want to make everything unconfined, because now you're just opening yourself up to vulnerabilities. All right. All right, so here they're showing you on this one here, they're showing you that SELinux is on different directories. But there's this little dot right here. If I'm not mistaken, that dot also specifies that SELinux is turned on, right? So let's go back to our screen, and let's cd over to slash, and let me clear my screen and do a ls minus z, lz. Well, let's do an L first so you can see better. So this is long listing, and you can see that this dot is on right here, right? You see a dot all the way down on this column here, right? And so now let's clear my screen, and now let's do the minus Z on that again. And now we have our user, our role, our type. Now, what you see, let's do it on home like they have. Let's do it on temp too. ls minus lz on slash temp, and don't want to ls minus lz on slash home. I should pipe that over to, let's put it into a file. Results, let's put it in temp too. Results.txt. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking my output and redirecting it to a file. So you won't see, now we can go over to, let's see. Yep. So now if we cd over to slash temp, we see that file there called results.txt, right? So now I'm just gonna cat results.txt, and then I should do a tail. Let's do a head on results.txt, right? So head, I think by default automatically I thought it was 10 lines, but it may be 5 lines. But here you can see I have some results, right? So it says on home dir is owned by DevOps. Let's look at ls minus home, ls minus l on slash. And we look at home, it's owned by root. So let's go and do that head again. Let's see, we got DevOps. Oh, it must be a DevOps directory here somewhere. And then we have unconfined, we have the object R, we have the user home dir, and it's DevOps. So let me look at ls on slash home. So we have a DevOps user and a student user. And it's DevOps is the user in the group. It's in an unconfined user, is object R is the role, and it's the type is of user home dir type, and then the sensitivity level is 0. That's 0, right? And then they do the 1 on student as well too, right? So, but if I open up this file, results.txt, we'll see way more information. Oh, it didn't do it for the other one, because I did an and. That's what it is. Let's go back and change the and to a, I think it's going to take the last one, but let's find out. It'll take the last thing that was done. Oh, the other one goes to output. That's okay. We'll do this. We'll double that. And then what we'll do here is we'll redirect that to slash temp results.txt. So that should capture both of them. And so now if I do a vim on results.txt, you'll see I got more information. So the first command didn't write to the file, but I changed it to write to the file. So, and I recorded everything. So everything is in this file. Again, this is just another way to record your information, redirect information that you want to save, and maybe you want to parse it and do something else with it. All right. All right. So here, they did the same thing on var ww. I just used temp to show you the difference. And then we went through changing SELinux. I showed you that. And then I also showed you this file already, right? And that's the first chapter. Any questions so far? Anybody confused? Not sure what we're talking about, what we're doing? All right. So in the lab, I don't see any questions. In the lab, they go through and they tell you to type this command in on the workstation. So on the workstation, I would type in lab SELinux ops mode start. And it's going to set up and do, it's going to set up the lab for me. And then they tell you to jump on server A. And on server A, you need to be root. And then they say, well, verify SELinux is in enforcing mode. It says now open up the configuration file and set it to permissive. So you can do it one or two ways. You can vim and open it up, or you can grep and change the actual file without opening it up right here. Then it reboots. Remember, I told you, whenever you change something in this config file, you have to reboot. So now when it comes back up, it's going to be in permissive mode, right? So it says it takes several minutes, and it does. If you got a big file system, it takes a long time for it to relabel, right? And then it says now SSH over to server A, go back to root user, and then change, show what SELinux mode is in. Is it in enforcing or permissive? Is it permissive because you changed it in here? Then they want you to change it back to enforcing mode. You can set enforce to be 1 because it's in permissive mode, and then you're going to change it to be 1. But because it's set to SELinux permissive, right now, when you change this to 1, it'll go to enforcing. And if you change this back to 0, it'll go back to what its natural state is. And then you exit. All right. So that's the first one. All right. That's the first lab. So now we're going to start getting into controlling those contexts, right? So after completing this section, manage SELinux policies that determine the default context for files and directories. So we have this new command, cmanage f context. Apply the context defined by SELinux policy to files and directories using restore con. Now, this is probably the meat and potatoes of SELinux that I think is the most confusing, and I also think it's the most confusing and something that people always reference the man pages or the help pages for. You're gonna use the man pages and the help pages on the exam. You just are. All right. So on this system running SELinux, all processing files are labeled. We've seen that, right? We've seen that when we come here and do the ls-z, right? We see the type that is labeled as. All right, we see that. And it says also that the files typically inherit SELinux from the parent directory. All right, so they're talking about the parent directory. Anybody not familiar with the parent directory? It sounds just like what it is, the top of the top directory. But this inheritance can be undermined in 2 ways. First, if you create a file in a different location. So let's go talk about that. Let's go show that, right? So I think it's a file, yep. So if I do an ls here, I'm gonna clear. Let's do ls-z. So we can see here everything is a type temp underscore t. Now what they're saying is if I go over to my home directory, let me cd to home, so I can do a cd tilde. Now if I do ls-lz, you can see I'm a system U of user, object R, and admin home T. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a file, touch hello.txt. And then I'm gonna just do an LL. Well, let's do LL minus C. And you can see hello dot text is of admin home T. But if I copy hello.txt over into /temp, and now if I go over to /temp and then do my ls minus lz on hello.txt, there's a you can see it changed. Actually unconfined. Before it was unconfined user object R and admin home T, and now when I copied it over, it says unconfined object R user temp underscore T. Let me look and see if everything else in that directory of temp is a slash. I can do that here. I don't have to do that. User temp underscore T. So let's go back and look and say what they say. All right, let's say, but the inheritance can be undermined in two ways. First, if the file is created in a different location from the ultimate intended location and then move the file still has the contents type of the directory where it was created, not the destination directory. Second, if you copy a file preserving the contents with a copy -a, then the copy -a command, the SELinux content reflects the location of the original file. So I didn't copy with the -a, but I did copy the file over there and it did change for me. So let's try it again. Let's do it with a copy -a. Let's see what we get here. So let's remove hello.txt. Yep. Let's go cd back to my directory. Right, and then let's do a copy -a hello.txt over to temp. And let's do a ls minus lz. And we can see we're supposed to be of type admin home T. So now when we go over to /temp, and let's do a ls minus lz on hello.txt, we should have preserved what I had before, which is your admin home T. So it preserved from the other one, but when I copied it over, it changed it, right? So let's see if that still holds true. Let's see, that /temp. Let's see if that still holds true if I copy over to var www.html. So let's go over to, let's go back home. And then let's copy hello.txt over to var www.html. And let's cd over to var www.html. Let's do it ls minus l lz on, it's nothing else in this directory. So we see now it took on httpd sys contents type, and we know that's what it's supposed to be because we've seen this before. So it changed. So on a copy, it changes. Well, on a copy -a, it preserves what it was before when we do that, right? But they're saying here, if you create a file in a different location from the ultimate intended location and then move, the keyword there will be move. So let's go try that, right? So let's remove hello.txt from here, right? And then let's move hello.txt to here. And now let's do a ls minus lz on hello.txt. You can see when I moved it, it kept the type from her. So here's the key. If you copy from one location to another location, that new location is going to take on the context type. But if you move using the move command, it's going to maintain what it had before. right? It would act as the same as doing a copy dash A. Move and copy, excuse me, copy dash A act the same. Does that make sense for everybody? Did you see that? No, yes. Caller, are you there? Okay. So move and CP-A act the same. They preserve this type when you're moving or copying files. When you with the dash A, if you just copy from one location to the other location, it changes the type when you get there, right? So that's important to remember. All right, so here they're saying with the ls minus zd, the command displays SELinux context of a directory. So it's just showing you that it's going to show you the directory and its context. And the D shows you the directory. That's from the ls command, right? And now here they just walk through and say, okay, well, let's create some files. Let's move and then let's copy, which I showed you that. And then they showing you this. Remember, move is different than the copy, right? It has to be the copy dash, move and copy dash A, right? And that's what they're showing you there. And now here they're saying, now let's change the SELinux context type of a file. So this is when we get into our CManage information. So here they're saying the preferred method to set SELinux context file for a file is to declare the default labeling for a file using CManage fcontext command and then applying the context to the file using the restore command. This ensures the labeling will be desired even after a complete relabeling of the file system. Now, what they're talking about when the complete relabel of the file system is when you go look at that SELinux page and you go in there and you start talking about, okay, how do I uh, change SELinux from enforcing to permissive. That's what they're talking about. So in here, when we go in here and we say, okay, vim etc SELinux config, and we say we want to go from enforcing to permissive, it's relabeling the file system. So when they in the lab, the first lab, they talk about rebooting, like you changed it from enforcing to permissive because you were relabeling the file system. And that's what they're talking about there. All right. So they say, okay, you're going to make a directory, you're going to get the context type, right? And so here they're saying, okay, the unconfined object is unconfined user object R and default T. But look where it's at, right? Look at the directory that it's in, right? So let's go here. Let's go back to home where they got a host. So I can do it here, but I don't think that's what they meant for me to do, but we'll do it. And then they say make a directory and then give us the context type. And then they got a context type of default T. Let's see if that default T actually comes up. So we're going to CD back to home. We're going to make a directory called virtual And now we're going to do an ls minus lz. And then we can do probably a D on that too. Virtual. Did I spell it wrong? Oh, it's because I put it in the slash. My bad. Let me get rid of the dash. Is that where they have it at? Yeah, they do. Okay, I'm right. Slash virtual. All right, so default. So anything we go up here to this directory, now we're gonna do a ls minus lz, and I'm gonna pipe that over to less and give me just the first three. Okay, you don't like my less? Why? Let's do a head. dash N3. Okay, in the first 3 lines. So you can see user bin, bin is a bin T, and boot, the directory is a boot T. Right, so they have different ones. I guess if you make anything, if you make any directory in slash here, if you're in slash pwd, if I'm in slash and I do it ls, any directory that I make here is going to be a default T. If I make if I make that directory. So that's what they're showing there. And then they say, now what we're going to do is we're going to change the type on this. But what happens is with the Chaconn is for like your right now. Like if I want to do this right now, change the type, it's going to do that right now. But what happens is if you reboot the system right now, it's going to go back to whatever the previous label was. And so what they're setting up here is like, hey, I have /virtual, and I'm going to put it of this particular type, which we've seen was the type for anything under var ww html. Right. So here they're saying Chaconn, change the type, right here, change the type value to the HTTPD content T. So they're doing that there on virtual. So we can go do the same thing. We can say Chaconn -T, and I don't remember how all of it is spelled out. Let me see. HTTPD _sys _content _T. HTTPD _sys. See, HTTPD _sys _content _T on virtual. And I'm in that path, so I don't have to do anything else. And if I do my ls minus lzd on, let's just do it on virtual. I have to do it on a directory. They have to put the -D, put the D option there. You can see now it's of HTTPD sys content type. Before it was of default. So then what they're telling you in here now is the restore con command runs the type value return and the value returns to default T. Note the relabel message, right? So it's gonna restore. So basically there's a file that contains what the actual types should be. And so by default, it's gonna go back and to restore basically to what it was. So now we're gonna run this restore con command on virtual, right? So now we do a restore con -v on virtual, and the V stands for verbose. And so now it's been relabeled from the HTTPD sys content type to the default type, which is what it was before. And there's a file out there that tells you what these are. So now it says, now we need to define SELinux default file contents rules. So the cmanage f context command displays and modifies the rules that restorecon uses to set the defaults. So there's a default that gets set. It says it uses extended regular expressions. The most common extended regular expression is /.*, which means optionally match anything followed by any number of characters. Like relabel that. And it matches the directory listed before the expression, everything in the directory recursively down. All right, so then they talk about how to use cmanage to remove a list context. So you have the -A for add, you have the -D for delete, and the -L just to list the records. All right, any questions so far before we keep going? Don't hear anything. Okay. All right. So now, next up, it says, well, and I showed this on the live. SELinux context install the policy core utils package, right? And that's Yum. We use Yum to install this. So let's go over here and let's clear my screen. And let's do a Yum search policy core. And it should find anything with policy core, right? So there we are. We see the policy core utils right here. And you also see the policy core Python utils, right? So I'm gonna clear, and I'm gonna check to see if it's already installed. So if I do a RPM-QA and I grep for policy core, it should return me anything. Sorry, that's my mom. It should return anything with policy core in it. Let me log out, because she'll keep calling. Oh, I didn't log out. Hold on one second. All right. So you see policy core utils is installed. You see the Python package installed for it, and the policy core utils Python package here as well too. So we're taken care of there. All right. So then we talk about these contain the restore command and the cmanage command. So now if we go over here and we type in a man on cmanage, yep, I spelled that right. You can see cmanage is a SELinux policy management tool, and they give you different commands: import, export, login, port, interface, module, so forth, and they tell you what each one does, right? And you see F context, manage file context mapping definitions, right? And you also have ones for network, and then you have Booleans, and then you have permissive and different things, like different commands. And they say you can type -- help. So let's try that. Cmanage -- help. And they walk you through basically what you see in that file, right? They give you a little bit more context. You don't have to do a man, you can just do the -- help. All right, so now they say, okay, to ensure that all files in a directory have the correct file context, run cmanage f context -l, followed by the restore con command. In the following example, note that the file context of each file before and after cmanage and restore command. So we have some files. We got a list of files in var ww html, which I think we got hello.txt over there, right? So there's if we did a ls-z in that directory, we should see everything should have a file type of httpd syscontent _t. So let's go to that directory. Cd over to var ww. Let's do ww and then do ls-lzd on html. And you should see that it has. Remember, everything is inherent from the parent directory, so it should have that type. So when I go to HTML and do an ls, this is not going to be of HTTPD because we did a -a on it the last time. So it's not going to be of that, but that's okay because we can copy from our home directory, hello.txt. Did I get rid of it? I guess I did. Awesome. So what we can do, we can use our cmanage command, and cmanage f context right here. What was it at? It was a type. Oh, we can do the chicon, man. All right, let's do the chicon. Not cmanage. So let's do chicon. Let's do -t. we want httpd underscore sys content underscore t, and we want that on hello.txt, right? So now we do ls minus lz here. We can see now that it's of that context type. So it'll be able, it's the same as the directory above. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna imitate what they got going on here. So they have a scroll back down. They have a list of files here. Like they got file 1, 2, and 3. So we're gonna make file 1 through 5, right? So let's do that. So you can do, let's clear, and we can do touch, file 1, and I think I can do dot dot. Let me see if that works. I don't think it works. Hold on. I don't think I can do that. Look. Yeah, I didn't think I could do that. It's got to be touch, in bracket, file 1, file 2, file 3, file 4, file 5. I think I have to do it the other way. Let me double verify that. Yeah, I think what I have to do when I want the bracket is I have to do it like this. Let me go back up here. File. I think I have to do file, and then I have to do bracket 1, and I think I have to do dot dot. I think. Let me double verify that. I think I can do that. Let me look. Yeah. See. All right. So let's remove. Let's remove dash rf everything file star. Right. And then what we'll do is we'll do a touch, that last command, file everything 1 through 5. And now if I do an ls, yeah, it should have created everything from 1 through 5. So let me remove file again. Let's do ls. So we don't have anything there. Let me remove this. Let me grab that. All right, let me clear. Let me ls. So we have nothing. Now if I run this command right here, make it true, it's gonna create files 1 through 5 for me. All right. So we do ls. There we go. I wanted to get rid of that other error that I had. Right. So now we go back over here. It says that those files should be of HTTPD sys content type. Let's double verify that, right? We do ls minus lz, lowercase l, capital Z. Oh no, don't tell me that it stopped on me. I didn't expand it. Whatever. It'll come. I'll do it in a minute. All right. So now what they're showing here, I gotta wait for it to stop so I can start it back up. What they're showing here is C manage F context dash L. So what I do is I could probably use my Google Cloud, but I think that I tore that down. So we gotta wait. Let me see. Give me no. I gotta wait for everything to stop. So I can get everything going. Awesome. All right. Anyway, C manage F context type. This is gonna give you a listing of information. What they're showing you here is they want to show you that var, anything on the slash var ww, and everything under that recursively down, all the files will be of HTTPD context type, sys content type, right? They want to show you that. Now, if I change, like we showed before, if I change something, right, I can use the restore -rv for var ww, and it's going to restore it back to this. So it's saying here we have something that's labeled user temp underscore t, and it's going to change it to httpd sys content type, right? And then they do a ls on that, and then they show you that there. So then this one here using cmanage, you can add a context for a new directory. So here they're saying make their directory, touch your file, get the list of the security contacts, right? It's default because it's under slash. We want under slash, so everything is default, but we want to change it to something else. So here they're saying, okay, well, get that information and now add HTTPD. But notice here, anything before everything that went under slash was default. But in our case, we don't want to change all of that. We just want to change a particular directory. And so they're saying everything under the virtual directory, right? And underneath it, you want to put that into this particular context. And then they say now do a restore con on that. Recursively down, I don't know what the big F stands for. I gotta open up my terminal again, start my lab again. And then if you look at virtual, when you do that, you should have everything recursively down under slash, including virtual and index HTML should be of this type, right? And that's what they're trying to show you there. So now let me start my lab. That's gonna take a minute. But any questions so far? They're just showing you how this piece right here is probably the most important piece out of this lab, because when you're using cmanage f context, right, and you go to relabel, say you're in permissive mode and you make some changes and you go back to enforcing mode when you boot back up, if it's not in there, it's not gonna relabel it back to the context that you want. So that's probably one of the most important pieces, and that's an actual file that you can go into and actually change. I'm surprised they don't mention that in here. So let me go back up top because I think this is still coming up. Yep, still building and coming up. Let's go to the lab here. So we got the guided exercise coming up. Now we're gonna adjust SELinux policies and then investigating and resolving SELinux issues. So let's go to adjusting SELinux Booleans. So good old get bool, set bool is what we're looking at, right? This probably will be the easiest thing you do for SELinux, because you can say get SEBool -a, and you can say, hey, I want to turn HTTPD enable home doors on. You can say set SEBool and then turn it on. What's so cool about it? All right, so look. All right, so here they're showing you that they're talking about the man pages with SELinux policy doc, but they also talk about the one thing when you do this, the -a, right, and then you turn it on. This isn't persistent across reboots, so you got to pass the SELinux -p to make the modification persistent. Right, and the SELinux, the SEManage Boolean -l reports on whether or not the Boolean is persistent or not, right? So they're showing you that. So here we say, well, give me all the SEBool Boolean things that can turn on and off. Give me a specific one, right? And then it says, now let's set that one to on, right? It said, but look here, they did it as a regular user. You can't do it as a regular user. You got to be root. So they passed the sudo command to do that. Sudo command here to get on and off, right? And you set it on, but it's not persistent across reboots. When you do the -p, it makes it persistent across reboots. Now they're saying do a cmanage boolean -l, and then grep for the HTTPD home DIRs, and you can see it's on and on. Right here it was on and off. You could either be on and off, and this one is on and on, right? So there you go. And that was it for that one, right? I'll see where we're at here, and I'll run through the last little part of that. Let me get this console open. Let me expand that, just in case. All right, student. And then we got to get rid of the little thing up here, and then go to activities. And then we're gonna go view and zoom in. All right. Okay. All right. So that was that one. Let me go back up here to chapter 5, where they talk about the Boolean. Then they got a guided exercise, and now we're gonna look at investigating issues. All right. So now this part is the other meat and potatoes, right? Varlog is your friend on the exam. Being able to troubleshoot and know where issues get logged at and how to solve them, and how to and know where they get logged at for you to solve them, is very important. And the reason why that's important is because it gives, sometimes the log files give you a little bit more information than what you get out on command line. So here's where we're at. All right. So before, here they're just walking through creating files, starting HTTPD. Remember, SELinux is on, so whatever's in this file, you see they show a forbidden. So this file, the HTTP localhost file 3, you don't have permission to access that file, right? So this is where we're going to start throwing errors, and we have to troubleshoot it, right? And so they walk you through, go to audit log. So let's go here. I'm gonna be root. All right. And let's go up here. So touch a file, root file 3. Well, first off, we touch the file in /root file 3. And then we keep, what happens when we do the move command? Remember, when I say you move something, it is just like you are doing the CP-A. It's going to maintain whatever root file 3 permissions or context types was. So let's look at it, right? Let's go and do that, right? So we're going to touch a file under root. Well, first off, let's do this. Let's do ls minus l capital Z D on root /root. And you can see that it's of type admin underscore home underscore T. Next we're going to do is we're going to make a file. We can do touch /root file 3, right? And then we're going to do a ls minus l capital Z on /root file 3, which should still have the same context as admin home underscore T as it does for /root, because it's inherited, right? When we move this file 3, /root file3 over to home, not home, var www html, which we know is of httpd sys content underscore t. When we move that file over to there, yeah, we're gonna overwrite that. That's fine. Let's cd. Let's do it ls minus lz, and I may have to get rid of that file. I shouldn't though. On var www html file3. Right. So it's of admin underscore home underscore t. That is not the default for HTML directory, right? The default for that is httpd sys content t. So just by looking at this, I don't have to run any command to figure this out. I can look and say, I touched this file in /roots. I created in /root. So what is that content? We know there's a difference between move and just copy, and then move and copy -a. Move and copy -a preserves are the same thing. They preserve the original content type, context type, or the original type in the directory in which it was created in. So if you move it over there, and this particular type and this particular type don't match up, by default, I don't care how many times you restart this, it's just never going to work because it doesn't have the same type, right? So let's walk through this and restart HTTPD. Let's restart restart it. It's already started, so we should be able to just do the curl command. Curl HTTP localhost. So let's do that. So curl. Let me clear my screen. Curl HTTP localhost. I think curl is installed file3, and we get a forbidden, right? So we know for a fact that didn't work. And you see, if you're in the GUI, the SELinux security violation pops up. So if we want to do a quick test, right? Here's 2 quick tests you can do. You can say set enforce to be 0, and then curl again, and you see you don't get that message, right? So we know by default it's something with SELinux. Oh, look, we got a denial, right? Well, I didn't get a denial like I did the last time. So let's do, that may be the same one. So now set that back to enforce. The other way we could do it is we could use the chcon command to change that type to that file to that particular type in that folder, right? So what they're going through and said, hey, how do you know how to troubleshoot this problem? Well, audit log, right? And messages tell you that, right? So let's go and clear. And let's do a tail-n last 5 message on var log audit and audit.log, right? So we can see here we had a denied. It tried to read it. It denied it. It's telling you that HTTPD and the name was file3. It tells you what device, and it tells you that the context that it has for that directory is of a system. Oh, here it is, HTTPD contents, but what it has is of admin home. And so it's saying that permission, I set it to permissive on 1, but that's going to automatically deny it, right? And it's showing you that there, right? So it tells you that again here. It's pretty verbose when it's reading this. Let me go back and clear again. Let me get enforce and make sure I got it back to enforcing 1. Right? And so let's run the curl command again. Let's throw the error again. All right. And then let's clear. There we go. And now let's look at the audit log again because I had it to permissive. Let's look at the audit log again. All right, so here it tells you right here, right? It gives you everything. It says the S content, the type. It tells you the type that I am, and it's just like, hey, permissive 0. Like no, we can't do nothing, right? It tells you that. Let's go to activities. I should have caught that flash when it was coming up. I forget where it's at on the terminal right now. Let's see. Show some applications here. Where's SELinux? Get logged at. All right, so if you're on there, it shows you attempted to get ATTR, so forth. For now, let's hit details, and it should be labeled HTTPD sys contents type, right? And so now, if you want to label that, right, the access attempt may have been stopped due to insufficient permissions. Do a restore con on this and change it. And they walk you through, if you believe that HTTPD should be allowed, get a attribute access on file 3. It shows you that you can use all search and do all this right here. I'm surprised they didn't go over this in this class, because this is actually helpful when you're doing an all search and audit to allow and all of that. I'm surprised they don't even talk about that, but I guess they're keeping it simple, because that really gets into the meat and the potatoes of SELinux. So if you list all alerts, it'll show you like read, open, get attribute, how many times it occurred, and then the notify, right? And you can do all this in command line. You don't have to do this in here. I was just showing you options, right? All right. So if we go back over here, if we read through this right here, we see the same thing, right? The S content, the T content, these types do not match up. So therefore, I'm not going to read. And then they say, well, let's go look at var log messages. They do a tell on var log messages, right? Right here. So it gets kind of convoluted, but hard to see. But right here, SELinux request blah blah blah, user SE alert, label unconfined, blah blah, is using blah blah blah. Let me see. I may have to go up some. Let me see, let me clear. Let me run it again so it can be at the bottom of the file. Run that curl command, clear, and then let's get the tail on that. All right, so here we go. Much better here. SELinux is preventing HTTP get attribute access for file 3. For complete SELinux messages, use SE alert, and then they tell you the alert command to run. So let's grab that, and then let's edit and copy. And it says SELinux is preventing it, blah, 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 blah. Default label should be HTTPD sys content T. Then you can run restore con. The access attempt may have been due to insufficient privileges. So I'm going to now clear my screen, and then I'm going to paste this. And we're going to hit enter. Okay, so what it's telling you is what happened. The source context is this, but your target is this. And here's your file. Here is the source path, or what they're saying is HTTPD, the host that it's on, and it gives you a little bit more information. And then it tells you what you should change it to, but it also gives you the raw message of that audit, right? So the SE alert gives you a little more information about, like, you were this, but you need to be this, right? And you saw the notifications come up, right? So it says both log files indicate SELinux is the now culprit, and then they tell you to use the SE alert to give you a little bit more information, right? All right, it says the raw audit message session reveals the target file that is the problem, right? It gives you the raw audit, the target file that is the problem. Also, the target context or T context does not look like it belongs with a web server. Use the restore con command, and notice they chose to use the restore con versus the chcon, because the chcon is not going to be persistent across reboots. That's why. So now they say use restore con to fix the type. If there are other files in there, you can use the -r. So now on here, we're going to clear. We're going to go over to var ww html, right? And we're going to do restore con on, what did it say? Restore con var, they just did the path. I just do file 3. All right, now let's do a ls-lz on file 3. And now you see it got changed to HTTPD sys content, right? And it also talks about the raw messages section, audit message section of SE alert command contains information from audit log. To search raw audit log, you can do all search. So they're going in and say all search -m abc-ts recent. So here they say the -m searches for the message type. You saw that ABC that was there in the message type. Like here's the message type of audit, message type of syscall, and so forth. And then it says -ts. So -ts searches based on the time, and we just pass it recent. So let's, I should be able to grab this here. I may be able to edit and paste. Let's see. Nope, I can't. All right, so let's all search. The dash message is was it ABC? Capital ABC or lowercase? Capital ABC. -ts, and then recent. Right, so it gives you all the ones that were problems, right? Gives you each one step by step. Let's do it ls-lz, capital Z on star here. And we can see they're all of content type. But if I want to change one of these files to another one and start throwing errors, you would see the errors that it would throw as well too, right? All right, so they talk about here the web console. It said if that's installed, you can go and look at SELinux, and you can turn it on and off, right? And they just talk about if it's on or if it's off. They said click on the character to show the error details, and then drop down and show the solutions for that. And no SELinux web alert, they're just showing you that. So let's go up here to our console, and let's see if we have a SELinux on and off section. Let me look. Where is that at? Is it under here? I forget where it's at on the screen, because I'm never on the screen, so forgive me for not knowing where that's at. Let's see, terminal. Yeah, I don't see it on here. Let me see. Can I go down? Nope. Can I go up? Nope. Nothing there. What is this? That power? Yep, that's desktop, bookmarks, places, search on, nothing there. Let me go back here. Let's type in SELinux. I just see the troubleshooting, remove device emoji. But I don't see the thing where you turn on and off. I don't see that. Let's go back and see what they're talking about, where that's at. Oh, that must be on the web console. From the left menu, the SELinux policy window informs you whether it's on or off. The SELinux policy menu. I don't see a policy menu. Terminal, help, software, files, rhythm box, evolution. And then when I click in here, I got subscriptions, evolution, boxes, software. Wonder if it's under utilities. Nope, I don't see it under utilities. But we already know that SELinux is on because we typed in it, whether it was enforcing or not, right? So we can double go back to that with git enforce, and we know it's enforcing, right? That's simple. That part we don't have to worry about. And then the next little piece is you do the guided exercises where they walk you through SELinux issues, show you how to read some messages that came up. Here's your SE alert, and they walk you through troubleshoot, fail to retrieve an RPM from custom index HTML. SELinux is preventing user SBN HTTPD from getting attribute access on the file custom blah blah blah. And then when you type in the SE alert, SELinux is preventing this if you believe. Okay, so the target is system. I mean it's HTTPD, but the target they have is default, so you need to change that. So they're gonna do a restore con on that file under custom index HTML, right? And then they're just showing you with the all search here. They do the C manage. So that's what I was talking about before. The C manage context, they're adding that to the HT to be managed by HTTPD sys context, right? So anything under this directory and under the custom directory and below it, you need to add that type to that. And then they do the restore con. So that's what I was talking about across reboots, right? That's what you need to be. This is one of the things I wanted to point out, right? It's when to use the chcon, which is temporary, and when do you use cmanage. If you want it to be persistent across your reboots, and here's the difference. What happened? If you want to be persistent across the reboots, you need to do the cmanage, right? So what the cmanage did here is what we did here was custom is made under slash, and remember custom, anything made under slash that when we make that directory, it's of default. So the CD over to here, and then let's make a directory called my test, and then do a ls minus lz capital Z lowercase d on my test. You can see it's of default. But if I put any file in that directory, so I'm going to CD over to my test, right? And then I'm going to touch a file 15. And then I'm going to do a curl localhost HTTP localhost on localhost on, can I do that? I can't. Can I do file 15? Well, file 15 won't be there. It's not found because that's not the path. So we're gonna have to give it my test. I don't know if I can do that. Yeah, I can't do that because my test is in the upper path. Let me see how they do it. It's not in the path. Let me see. How did they get that var? How did they give it get the message? Because custom is here, is under slash, but it needs to be under, yeah, the path, the HTTP path is custom index.html. That's not gonna work. I forget how you have to trick it to use the path. So is it localhost? Yeah, because localhost would be the path. Let me look and check and see here. I'm sure I can't do that because that does not. Does that make sense? Yeah, I can resolve my test because my test would be a host name. And that doesn't resolve because that's the host name. So that's why it's looking for that. So localhost, can I do 1, 2, 3? Yeah, it doesn't like that. I forget how you trick it to tell it where the path is because that path is not var www html. And let me show you what I'm talking about so you don't not blinded. HTTPD. If you go into the conf, maybe the conf.p, maybe the conf. Oh, here it is, httpd.conf. All right. So if you type in var, there you go right here. So the document root for this is automatically var www html. So it's looking at var www html for that path to do. What I would have to do in order to get that directory that I just created up in here, I will have to come in here just like you see here and let me see. Let me go back here. I will come in here and I will have to do this. I will have to say to get directory content, I will have to add the directory in here so I can serve content up out of that directory. And that's how you would add that. That's how you would trick that. So that could basically serve content out of that directory, but I still have to change the content type for that. And that's what they're showing you here. They're saying, okay, well, if you're gonna serve a content out of there and you're gonna reboot and you want this to be persistent, you need to add this in and everything under that directory and then do a restore com because now it knows that it's of this type. And so it would change to that type. And that's what they're doing in that particular one. And let me go back to chapter. All right, and then the next one is a actual overall lab, and then the next one is should be just a summary of what we learned, right? Any questions? Because we got through all of SE Linux for chapter 5. I thought we were gonna need another week, but we don't. And then next week we'll be doing ACLs, and I'll probably knock out ACLs and start chapter 13, right? And then for our final week of chapter 14, I'm probably gonna spend 2 weeks, probably to the mid-August, not 2 weeks, but 2 days. Probably get it like a Wednesday, Thursday, and spend Wednesday, Thursday on a review of everything. I'm probably gonna do another review of 124. It's just gonna be like a crash through 124. I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time, no more than like I'm probably gonna do a day where I do like a 4 hour overview. I may record it, I don't know yet. Of 124 and a 4 hour review of 134, altogether be a total of 8 hours, just like going through and highlighting gotchas, things you should look out for, so forth and so on. And then we'll be done, and then we'll be ready for your exam, and you'll be ready to move on to Ansible and possibly Terraform. I don't foresee us spending no more than like a month on Ansible. I think you get that really, really quickly. Just a little preview of Ansible. Let me come here. I can do that here. Let's clear my screen. Let's do a yum install Ansible. It's already installed. Awesome. So, and the thing is already set up. So we call them inventory. So cd over to etc Ansible roles. There we go. Ls. So we have host here. So let me look at the host. So basically, this is my inventory file, right? So in here, I come in, I set up my inventory. In my case, my inventory would be classroom server A, server B, whatever those IP addresses are. And I forget where the diagram is at, but let me do this. Let me just open up a console real quick. And let me log in. Oh, I need to type it right. And then we get an IP address. So I have an IP address of 172 right here. Right here. 172.25. Let me write it down real quick. But if somebody can type that in the chat for me, that IP address, if you see that. 172.25.250.10. If you can type that in the chat for me real quick. So what will happen is on the console here, I would type in see enter. Come on. Okay, can you see it? All right, cool. Let's say lab. We'll just call it labs. And what you do here is you type in 172.25.250.10. Right? And there's some steps I'm missing out here that you need to exchange SSH keys. If you're in the 124 class, you know how to create SSH keys and you know how to exchange SSH keys, right? All right, so at this point, it should be, I should be able to go by this user. Let me see, ping-m, not ping, Ansible-m ping -l. I think I had type labs, and then I think that's it. Labs, and then I can do it like that. I think off the top of my head. So Ansible ping. Let me see. I want to do an Ansible ping. Hold on. I'm doing an ad hoc command. Ansible ping command off the top of my head here. All right, so basically Ansible, Ansible web server /np. Okay, boom. All right, so we go Ansible, it's clear, Ansible, labs -m. M is a module, and then ping. All right, so what happened was, first things first, Ansible requires Python. Secondly, Python has to be installed on the machine that you're trying to attempt to do some configuration on as well too, right? The next thing is you have to have a set of inventory to act upon, and you have to have a common user between those two machines. In our case, 9 times out of 10, student is a common user between the lab, our workstation machine, and server A. We know that, right? Because we've been playing in these labs. Then what we call a set of modules inside of not of Ansible, but there are modules that come with Ansible, right? So here you can see these modules. Like if I want to do something on a file, I can come in, create files or whatnot. If I want to do just some regular commands, like I can use the command in order to do something, or I can use the ping. Ping is a module, right? So there's different modules to use. What I did was I did not create a playbook. What I used was the command line, which is basically me using an ad hoc command. And I labeled cat etc Ansible host grep -I labs. Oh, it's not giving me everything under there, but I put in labs, right? I put that in, and under that I listed IP addresses. I could list hosts and IP addresses as well too, as part of my inventory. As long as the hosts are able to be interpreted by DNS of the local machine, we can do that, right? So let's go back in and Ansible hosts. Come down here. And then let's just type in server A. And then let's do, okay, I need to be root. That's fine. Let's do a host on server A. So it's automatically resolving by DNS. So it automatically resolves that by DNS. So let me do a vim, I'm in sudo. Run that command again. That's sudo. And then type in my password. And then let's delete that. And then let's just type server A. So automatically resolve server A, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So now we're gonna do my Ansible ping again on labs. It's gonna read server A as before. You can see the difference. It read the IP address. Now it reads the server A, and it was able to gather up information about it, right? I was able to ping it, right? It does a ping and a pong. That's how I know I'm able to do it. But you can have ping turned off, right? You could, if you wanted to, through the firewall. So when we start doing Ansible, we're gonna start using ad hoc commands and doing little things like this. Like, so I can type m setup, and so now it's gonna go out and gather facts about all those machines that I may have under labs. So let's redirect to /temp. Well, we can leave it right here. Facts.txt, right? And so now when I open up facts.txt, you can see I know more about this machine than ever I did before. I know the IP address. I know the architecture of it. I know the UUID, the date and time. I get whether or not I get the MAC address about it. I get the virtual disks that are associated with it. I get all different devices that are associated with. I get a slew of information that I can grab about this. And then we're gonna start using things like I wonder if JQ is installed. Nope. So let me do yum install JQ. Let me do that. Yep. So what JQ is gonna allow me to do, and I'll post a video I started looking at it, I haven't finished it, but on how we can take this information that we have here in facts, and we can say, we can say, well, we have VD3, but I want VD3 links, IDs, and I want this information. And JQ is gonna give us the ability to filter that information out. Like I say, when you start getting into Ansible, Ansible is gonna change how you do your configurations. So like we create users, right? So we got Ansible create users, right? So here we got manage user accounts. So you'll come in and they give you examples. That's why I'm scrolling down here fast, right? So you can see these examples. So here it says add a user John to with a specific UID and so forth. So you're gonna copy just like you see here, and you're gonna say I want to add a username Tamika Doe. I want her to have the UID of 1040 and be a part of the admin group. And you will place this in what we call a playbook. Now, if you want to do this as an ad hoc command like we've been doing here, you would then use the -m for module, because that is a module. This Ansible built-in user is a module that you're going to use, and then you're going to do you're going to use these different things. Now up here they tell you all the different things that you can do with this particular module. right? They have a whole slew of things that you could do with this module, right? So when we get into Ansible, I think you're gonna really like Ansible. I think he's gonna catch on quick. That's why I don't want to spend a whole lot of time, maybe about a month on it, and then you should be ready to take the exam, actually the RHCE exam, because the RHCE exam is Ansible, right? So I don't want to spend a month or more than a month on that, right? You should be using Ansible every day. Once you start it, you should start using it every single day, right? Now let me stop my recording